But yeah, you talk about the marketing as well. I mean, there's some really fun gags here. Like, I love the scene with the human in the Marco mask and the Drazi wearing the human
Yes.
mask. I mean, would you shop in the Babylon 5 Emporium, Zach?
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000. That's an incredible. I would get so much stuff. That'd be great. And no, that was a great gag. And the reason, and them doing it twice, like a human dressed up as an alien and vice versa,
Mm,
because obviously they're using the same makeup they would for the actual show. So it's just
yeah.
so funny that like it looks 100% authentic. And that was a great two-handed gag. And I would have definitely rang up quite a bill there in the Babylon 5 gift shop.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love Michael Vejar's camera bluff move where you get like the human face and he kind of puts his hand there and then the camera moves to the mirror. They've obviously
Hmm.
done an actor shift and actually
Yeah.
take the thing off and the Drazi face underneath. So that's a real nice little kind of camera trick.
Right. In
Uh,
camera special effect there. It's smart.
yeah, yeah,
Very good.
definitely.
Yeah, and I also like the Londo doll. I mean, I'm assuming, Luke, this must have been real B5 merchandise that fans could buy too,
It wasn't actually.
wasn't
If you
it?
go on, no, if you go on the Lurkers guy, JMS, he has a little paragraph where he basically said it was all created for the show.
Ah, okay.
Um, and that there was no actual merchandise for B5. But apparently, at the end of the season, they kind of auditioned off the pieces to various crew members and actors, so they kind of a memento. But apparently, the Londo doll was stolen by Peter Jurassic, who wanted to keep it for himself.
That's great. Did you guys ever get in the B5 merch later on? Because eventually they did come out with like action figures and stuff.
Oh, really?
Really
No,
late.
They,
I feel like it was either end of season 4 or even season 5. They had
much
quite
later
a
then,
few.
right?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I didn't actually. I mean, I remember paying extortionate prices for the VHS tapes, but I never, was £100 I spent on season 3 VHS box set, the whole set, ridiculous amount of money, but still worth it though. But yeah, I do remember all the dolls. Well, I thought I kind of the Londo doll does look a lot like the dolls they released, so maybe they kind of was the inspiration there.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we'll talk about the teddy bear scene at the end, but let's turn our attention to murder and that second pre-title scene with Sheridan and the death of Lavelle. So, I mean, I don't know about you, Luke. I don't know about you, Zach, but I thought there was some pretty hokey setup here in those dark corridors.
Oh, excuse me. Hey, wait a minute. And they do it twice. Like he runs into the
Yeah.
guy and then he runs into the Mimbari guy again. And I was like, okay, like what it to me it works because it was like a setup. I'm like, okay,
Mm.
that's
Yeah.
fine, right? That's the only reason that kind of like as you said, hokiness works for me. But yeah, it was a little on the nose.
Yeah, you got the convenient PPG and the convenient witness. It almost feels so obvious that it was staged, but of course you don't know that at the time as well. So it kind of works in retrospect where you know it's all a kind of an act two in Trap Sheridan. Yeah. So we get two murder investigations for the price of one here. So Luke, you've already mentioned Garibaldi. You know, I think last episode in Hunter Prey we had him as the kind of the shifty PI look down and down below, and this time he's really getting involved in the investigation there. So what do you think of those early scenes? You really get to see how his mind works.
Yeah, no fedora hat this time with
No.
Garibaldi. I love any episode that has Inspector Garibaldi. I think it brings out the best in his character. He's a man who trusts little and suspects everyone, which is like the perfect mind to have to kind of see through what is presumed as the truth and actually find the facts. And he does that very well. And I like his foresight to know that the two investigations will clash and
Mm.
their investigation will be hindered. Um, and I like how Garibaldi kind of like he catches on to the Mimbari to Mimbari thing very, very quickly.
Mm.
Lanier's popping up everywhere, stopping him from interviewing the suspects. And I like but also, I think what's interesting to note is also Sheridan's behavior as well during
Yeah.
these early scenes, and he's absolutely sure that Ashan, who is the witness, will back him up. And but that doesn't seem to ring true for Sheridan or the Mimbari because the Mimbari always look after their own. I mean, yes, their inability to lie at this point, but I don't know that never rings true, and you kind of know that Ashan's gonna not talk to him because he's a human and will will be supported by the Mimbari. So there's a lot going on in those early scenes with Garibaldi, but also with Sheridan as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I meant earlier on about it feels like it's placed maybe a little bit too late in the season because there's so the way Sheridan acts, like he suggests as a cover up here, he doesn't seem very trustful of Lanier or the Mimbari at all. And he's been in the station, for a good period of time now. So it kind of was if this had been like a third of the way through the season, it probably would have run a bit better. I find Sheridan's actions a little bit, maybe a bit more naive, or maybe falling back on old habits here because he's been around the Mimbari for quite a period this time.
I don't know if this part of that is it's a Peter David script and maybe he like wrote it like early in the season and by the time they got around to making it was like, oh yeah, here we go. But when those independent scripts they're based off, earlier conversations and understandings of the character. So that might have something to do with it. But I hear you there, yeah.
Yeah. And what about Delenn and Lanier's own investigation then? So we get the scenes with the eyewitness Ashan. What do you think of those scenes, Zach, particularly Ashan's reaction to Delenn?
I thought it was very insightful. Like that's the great thing about Babylon 5 when it comes to aliens. Like they're not like a monoculture the way like Star Trek is, or it's like every Klingon is the same and all that, right? Every Mimbari, every Naran or whatever, right? Everybody has their different agendas. So like, yeah, this it's like a kind of a racist, xenophobic Mimbari here because he's like, you were a freak. Like the Lynn, that's like, whoa. She's like a really high up respected person and he's calling her out like that and she obviously gets upset and leaves and then like and you can totally transpose this into like our society, right? Because like when this guy's talking to Lanier, he's like, because you and I are the same, I will talk to you. I'm like, damn, like I don't know, like it speaks to our society, man. It's good stuff.
Really do, yeah.
Yeah, fear of the other, isn't it? Really, kind of essentially, but it's the fact that she was one of them, and now he perceives her because she's done a physical transformation. She is no longer one of them. I mean, it's especially in modern times as well, where you have people who change their gender, and these people are outed or ostracized by maybe family or friends or society because they've chose to make that change. So it speaks to that quite clearly, actually.
Yeah, Babylon 5 was always quite prophetic, wasn't it? And it kind of feels like it resonates even more now than back in the 90s with that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk here in this episode about honor and the Mimbari's inability to lie as well. So, Luke, what do you think of Delenn's reaction when Sheridan suggested Ashan might be lying to them? That was pretty strong as well.
She's very measured and diplomatic in that scene because she could have absolutely flung off the rail and go, "How dare you!" But she's very measured, very diplomatic. I think any other Mimbari may have potentially reacted more aggressively towards that because it's literally an insult to their people, to their culture and their faith and honor, particularly when clans become involved, which will become much more important later on. But also of note, I think in that scene is Sheridan's insistence to Garibaldi that he meets Ashan, and he's playing into their hands, but it's because he's being so ruled by his emotions at this point on Sheridan. He's not really thinking clearly. His honor as captain of B5 and as a human is at stake here. And I kind of asked myself in the scene, if it was Sinclair, would he have stepped back and just let Garibaldi deal with the situation? Because I think Sinclair might have done that, whereas Sheridan's a lot more of a heart on his sleeve guy and is driven by emotions a lot more than Sinclair was.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think, because it does feel like he oversteps in this to get things done. Like he's involved, he's there when the autopsy is taking place. For example,
that's like the conflict of interest right there.
You're the number one suspect. You shouldn't be anywhere near this, and yet he's so involved as well. Yeah, he's clearly falling right into the Mimbari's trap here. Yeah, but I think you're right about her diplomatic response of it would require an immediate and fatal response, and she basically goes, "Don't say that again." We'll leave it there, and it's really, really well delivered by Mira Furlan.